Hi, we are back talking about all things neurofeedback, and I can't talk about neurofeedback if we're not talking about a QEEG brain map. And that stands for quantitative electroencephalogram. That's a mouthful, okay? But a QEEG is something we do here in our brain behavior reset program. We also do something called a brain check, and I'll explain the difference. But really simply, these are ways to collect data. So we're not just guessing in mental health. The standard of care in mental health is to guess, right? You go in, you tell your symptoms. Nobody's really checking. You're really sort of lucky if they make you fill out a detailed questionnaire. And what these methods do is allow us to collect data from the brain. Why is that important? Well, we know exactly what the brain does. The brain has certain areas that do certain things. And a QEEG is so magical because it shows us exactly what regions are overstimulated, so what areas are overworking, and what areas are understimulated. They're really not working properly. And please know that a QEEG can't tell us your intelligence. They can give us an idea of how smart you are, because sometimes I am with people who are really struggling, but somehow managing to be going to work and getting good grades. And that means you got to have a lot of power under the hood. But you might be putting economy gas in your Ferrari. That's basically what happens every day. So it's really showing us exactly what's happening over the structures of the brain. So what's happening over those frontal lobes? What's happening in the emotional centers, in the limbic system, the amygdala? What's happening there? Is it a hot mess? Is it oversensitive? What's happening in the areas responsible for sensory processing, motivation, emotional control? It's that detailed. How cool is that? Different kinds of memory, working memory, long-term memory. You don't have to guess. You can see if it's working or not. And the other thing it does, so over the structures, a QEEG will tell us what the brain's communication is like, which is blows people's mind. So we don't talk about brain communication, but how the brain is talking to itself is as important as how the structures are working, right? So we can say, oh, this area related to attention, like it looks like he's on a coffee break over there, literally. But we also can say, like, how does information get from the left side to the right side? And why is that important? Well, I'm going to give you a really awesome example of probably the most famous smart person in the world, Mr. Albert Einstein. And he had a brain, he had a genetic defect across his corpus callosum, that is the super highway from the right to the left side of your brain. And that genetic defect allowed him to process 400 times the rate of a normal brain. Pretty cool story how we know this. He donated his brain to Princeton. Another professor happened to take his brain. And in the late 90s, the widow, when he passed away, his widow said, hey, we have Albert Einstein's brain and, we want to give it to you, which is pretty cool because by then we were able to really look at his brain and we could see that he had this genetic defect. So one of the powers of neurofeedback, if you've heard my other episode where I say I think I'm Flash from X-Men, is that what neurofeedback does is really just improve the processing rate. It really increases the efficiency. And I do neurofeedback with people without clinical conditions, not enough. I often joke that neurofeedback, like it should be like you get your gas and then you get like 4 minutes of neurofeedback when you wait. We'd be a lot happier. People wouldn't be so mean to each other, and it really just helps to improve how you think and how you are organized. It really is how I get a lot of things done, because you can be intelligent, but then you still need efficiency in your processing. And so those lines of communication, and let me tell you what happens in a queue. So you can see what is actually happening, right? So, with a QEEG, they're like, what is it? So you're putting a cap on and you are measuring the surface electrical activity of the brain. And when we measure the surface electrical activity of the brain, that information is put into a database and you're compared against males and females in your range. We're using a clinical database, so there's people that have, typicals and people with other issues. And then Dr. Roseann, in her millions of years of experience, can interpret that sucker in like 30 seconds because this is what happens when you go to an expert. You are working with somebody, and I've done over 10,000 brain maps, people. So I literally can look at it. I can tell you, and this is not typical, I can tell you what somebody's gut health is like. I can tell you if you're digesting proteins or not, just based on having done 10,000 of these. You can see patterns. So a QEEG shows us patterns. And really, it's about probabilities. So, for example, for my PANS, PANDAS people or Lyme disease, it looks very distinctive because apparently I have one of the largest I have the largest database, I've been told by researchers in the field, of people with autoimmune encephalopathy, that their brain has brain swelling due to autoimmune responses to infections, and toxins. So I have a large population of these 10,000 people have infectious disease. We do other things. And so when I look at their brain map, you have to say, why would there be massive amounts of delta? That's a particular type of brain wave. You're going to see it in an active infection case. What would it be? So is it infection? Is it things like celiac? Is it a brain injury? Is it seizures? Is it autism? There's a lot of reasons. And so you have to say, what else is there that you would be able to interpret? So the interpretation of the brain map has to be by a very highly skilled person who's done a lot of these. And you know what? We all started out, and it's like anything else. People come to me because they want to come to somebody who has a lot of experience and who loves what they do, which is me. So, you go to a new person, you're not going to get that. And I always use the example of a brain surgeon. Do you want a brain surgeon who's done 10,000 or 5 operations? Hello, you're going to wait for the one that's done 10,000. But it's the point of that story, because I think I'm so funny, is that it's really about interpreting it. And many people use services to interpret brain maps of people who have more skills. No, I'm not going to interpret anybody's brain map unless they're coming to me. I don't have time. We have a program, Brain Behavior Reset. If you want to apply, drroseann.com/apply. And we guide you to the resources if you're not ready for our journey. I mean, it's just that way. We often have a wait list, and it's a very small grouping of people we can take in. So people come out and we put somebody in. That's it. We're not going to grow more than that, because I want to be able to spend time with people, and I want to have our team be this tight, and you get the brain trust behind solving your kids' issues and getting that calm brain and happy family. So a QEEG really gives us clear information about what are the structures doing, what can they do, what can't they do, and how is the brain talking. And it really is very diagnostic of those micro issues. That's where in my other video about what is neurofeedback good for, or the other podcast episode, it really is about, what else could it be? So 50% of my clients who come in with ADHD don't really have ADHD. They have things like anxiety, OCD, PTSD, head trauma. So brain injury is one of those amazing things neurofeedback is awesome for. And we can see it in a QEEG. And I don't want to diminish the beauty of a brain check, because I have so much experience. I can collect raw data, and that can give me a lot of indicators, and we do a statistical analysis of it. And I did that long before. I've done 10,000 brain maps. but I used to collect data and do statistical averages so I can read raw data. So it is an amazing tool. It is not an EEG, even though an EEG is collecting that same information. This is quantitative. This is different, and it's doing a statistical analysis to give you a visual representation. At our center, we give you a report that shows you and helps you understand, and we line it up with questions so that you get a better sense about, what's going on in the behavioral part. But a QEEG and a brain check and our brain behavior reset program is the data collection point. We base all of our neurofeedback treatment. We do QEEG guided neurofeedback, and we do EEG neurofeedback that is clinician guided. This is not do-it-yourself neurofeedback. You get the experience of me designing every protocol and being behind the scenes, and you get the experience of our team. But it is a game changer, a QEEG. People have said to me, and I have the quote on my website, that 10 minutes with me was like, got to the root of it that they couldn't get to after years. And that is because if you have somebody who really is an expert in understanding what the brain can and can't do, it is powerful. And kids love this information. People love this information. I present it in such a positive way and show people exactly how to turn things back on, because every brain should be celebrated, and every brain has a potential for change, and there's just so many brain keys, is like what we like to call them. So I hope this gave you an aha moment. You can tell I'm really passionate, and I can geek out over QEEG brain maps all day. I will not meet with any person. I do not do any consults with anybody unless they have a QEEG with me. And it's because it's so powerful. We need a brain check. We need a QEEG. We need a data point, because we have to stop guessing. And that's the power of a neurofeedback. It's checking under the hood.